Lie on your tummy, have your legs long. Turn your face to the left. Rest the right-hand side of your face on the floor, some part. It could be the cheek, could be the ear, according to your own comfort. And now, bring that left arm into a push-ups position. That means the palm of the hand will be on the floor. And form in your mind the intention to move your head into that gap. And if you spend just a little bit of time forming that idea in your mind, some of you will distinctly notice how already there's parts of you twitching, ready to go. Can you feel that? Go ahead and start to do what you were intending and come back. Do that many times, and you know you don't have to get there all at once. Be a mouse. Remember the story about the mouse. You go a little way, you come home. You go a little further, you come home. But some of you will feel so compelled to put the head right all the way through. You should not resist that, because resistance is futile, according to the Borg. So you go with what your impulse is, you do it, you go, okay, that's good, and then you go back to making it small, which means you just do your natural impulse first, get it out of the way, get it out of your system, and then start to explore the different ways you can get your head into that gap. Because there's more than one pathway. And what's really beautiful as I'm walking around the room is that I see many people are already involving their pelvis. Which means through this series of lessons, you have discovered, whether you're aware of it or not, this connection of the head through yourself to the pelvis. And some of you are already beginning to move your leg. Now, the arm is in a push-ups position for two reasons. One, to create a gap. Two, to be useful. And if the arm is there to be useful, it's not useful if it's in a position where it restricts you. So please feel free to change the position of your arm where it doesn't restrict you. But you can still use it. Use it to have purchase on the floor. So that means if you're lifting your palm off the floor, you're not using your arm for purchase. Please continue, and now add another little intention. As you move your head into that gap, think of bringing your knee towards your nose. And then do it. And to bring the knee towards the nose, become aware of rolling your pelvis. The left knee. Yeah, definitely not the right knee. Not at this moment. Down the track. The left knee. Yeah, it's a lot easier, I agree. Yeah. So if I didn't specify, I apologize. I meant to specify it's the left knee. Thank you for your question. But yes, it is possible to bring both knees to touch the nose, but mañana, mañana. Just because I said it doesn't mean you have to do it. You compulsive people. Don't do that. That would be very silly. Now, continue doing what you're doing, but change the part of your face that you're directing towards your knee. Think of directing your forehead towards your knee. Notice if that shapes the movement differently. Now, that's a very particular way of talking, isn't it? That it shapes the movement differently. All I simply mean is, when you think of your forehead going through, does your spine tend to get rounder, more rounder than before, or less? Does something different happen in your neck? And if you're not sure, the best thing that you can do, and this is a learning principle, is you return to bringing the nose towards the knee, and then the next time you bring the forehead towards the knee, and you compare them because they're close together in time. You're capable of keeping a working memory of what it felt like to do one and what it felt like to do other, because they're immediately proximal to each other. And now add a third variation. So you can vary now between three different things: directing the nose towards the knee, directing the forehead towards the knee, or directing the chin towards the knee. And each one of those, you'll have a different experience in how the neck moves, and the chest, and the spine. And very often, actually most often, information arises out of difference. You do one movement, then you do another movement, you compare them, and you go, oh, something's different. I'm not sure what's different. Let's find out. What's different? Because some part of you detects there's something different. But what is that difference? And then when you have three options, can you see that that can occupy you for quite a while until you become clear, aware, in other words, consciously knowing, ah, that's what happens in my neck. That's what's different. Oh, that's what happens in my chest. That's what's different. Oh, that's what happens in my spine. That's different. And then you become like Feldenkrais, lying on the floor, observing yourself, totally absorbed in the experience of moving and finding out, inquiring. And that's why I like to call awareness through movement lessons somatic inquiries. Inquiries into the experiences of a living person, a living body. Okay, please pause for a little while. We're going to do a lot of different variations using this same movement intent, this generalized movement intent of the head and the knee coming closer together, and we'll do lots of different variations. So please bring your left arm into that push-ups position in a place that you found really afforded you purchase. Turn your head to the left. And now bring your nose and your knee towards each other to a place that's comfortable. Not too close that you feel you're all squished up, not too far, but just a place that's comfortable. And then imagine that you have a very long straw, you know, a drinking straw that links your nose, the tip of your nose, to the knee, and that you're holding the straw between those two places. Can you imagine that? Keep holding the straw between those two places, your nose and your knee, and move your knee upwards and then downwards. Don't let the straw fall out. If you don't like a straw, think of a chopstick. Yes. Well, if you're not letting the stick fall, what do you think? Yes, you'll need to move your head with your leg. Or else the chopstick will drop out, the straw will drop out, the stick will drop out. So this little imaginary device of a straw or a stick suggests that you can maintain a constant relationship, a spatial relationship between your head and your knee. That's what it's about. And most people can imagine that. But then, in your own experience, are you really doing what you're imagining? Or have you already dropped the straw 20 times? I was thinking of buying straws and giving them to you, but I thought, nah, I won't do that. Can't get long enough straws. Now, please don't make an effort. Because what sort of metaphor can I give you? Yeah. So if you imagine yourself standing in a pool, you know, in a pool of water, and you see, oh wow, there's a $2 coin, you know, just a foot down there. And then some kid comes along and walks through the water, stirs up all the mud. You can't see the coin anymore. Where is it? It's gone. There's too much mud in the water. That beautiful clarity of the water that was there a moment ago when everything was still and quiet, it's gone. Muscular tension can do the same thing. Too much muscular tension does not allow you to perceive clearly what's going on. All you can perceive is the muscular tension. So don't try hard. Don't. And now do the complete opposite. Let the stick drop and move the head and the nose further apart and then bring them together. Take them apart, bring them together. Notice what that's like, having just played with that crazy little image of holding a stick. There's something changed, there's something different. And stop. Pause. Once again, it's one of those lessons where the surface that you're lying on makes a difference. I remember doing this lesson over at Albert Park on a carpeted floor, and I was wearing shorts. And by the end of the lesson, there was a big carpet burn on the right side of my cheek and on my left knee. So I learned a little bit in that lesson, how to reduce friction, and to next day bring a sheet to lie on. Yeah. It's just one of those lessons. Please, once again, lie on your front, have your left arm in a push-ups position. Have your right arm lying on the floor beside you, with the palm to the ceiling, your face to the left. Now, a few times, leaving the palm of your hand where it is, lower your elbow towards the floor. Is that possible to do with your hand where it is? Can you lower your elbow towards the floor? If you can't, please find a way to position your hand where that is possible. So that's what you're looking for. A position of your hand that will still leave a gap, but that enables you, that affords you to lower the forearm and the elbow towards the floor. Now, the next time that your elbow is near to the floor, doesn't have to be on the floor, but near to the floor, stop there. Stop with your elbow lowered towards the floor. And now slowly, as you lift your elbow away from the floor, start to move your head into the gap. In one continuous movement. Don't move the elbow, then move the head. No, together, together, together. So as the elbow is lifting, you're already starting to move your head into that gap. Keep doing what you're doing and shift a little bit of your awareness to the shoulder blade. Notice whether the shoulder blade can keep moving on your back as you lift the elbow. And this is a really, really tricky skill you're doing here. Using the arm for purchase and at the same time letting the shoulder blade be free. Wow, that's a complex skill. And for those of you that start to find that freedom in the shoulder blade, you'll discover that your head goes through the gap a lot more. And you know why? For the head to go through the gap, the chest has to travel with the head. If the shoulder blade is stuck to the back of the rib cage, then the chest is also stuck with how far it can go. But if there is freedom between those two parts of yourself, your chest and your shoulder blade, then you get more motion. So think of your arm flapping like a bird. Yeah? As you take your head through the gap, think that you're about to flap the wing and bring it up and to look under your wing. Oh, suddenly it's turned into a wing and not a gap. Look under your wing. Please stop. Let that be for a while. I'm going to tell another version of a story that I've told before, and that is working with young teenage dancers, in the first years of a dance course. And these dancers are very able. They're able to do any movement. Most of them are able to do any movement that you show them. So they're very adept. And when teaching awareness through movement classes to them, they just do the movement. Bang. Yep, done it. Next. You go, what? How did you do it? I don't know. Right. The intention is about the movement. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I get it. Next instruction comes along. Done it. Next. Can you see that if there's that kind of, if it's really just about doing the movement, you might as well go home because you can do the movement. That's it. Most people can stand up and out of a chair. Most of you in this room can take your head through that gap. That's not the point. The point's not even to roll onto your back. The point is to be like that story I told you, doing these movements, not so much being interested in the what, but the how. How does that happen? How does that work inside there? That is the essential question. And out of that question come many, many things. So if you catch yourself losing track of not being interested in the how, just bring yourself back. How am I doing this? Return to lying on your front. Have your legs long. Have your right arm beside you. Have your left arm in a push-ups position. And now become very interested in the how of getting your right forearm underneath yourself, between the right side of your waist and the floor. To the left. Yep, I'll say it in a slightly different way. Bring your knee and your nose towards each other to a comfortable distance. Stay there. And now become interested in how to get that right forearm between yourself and the floor, underneath your right hand side. How do you get the right arm underneath yourself so that you can actually lie on the forearm? So your nose and your knee are a little bit towards each other, a comfortable distance. You've done this kind of threading movement before, so there's some part, there's some knowledge in there. You just need to kind of tease it back out in this new scenario. Now, if you're not lying on your forearm, you've missed the intent. Your forearm is that part of you that lies between your wrist and your elbow. That's your forearm. That span between your wrist and your elbow. Lie on some part of your forearm. And now, once your forearm is under there, please stay there. And think, only think of bringing your nose and your knee closer together and then further apart. Just think it. However, if you'd like to do and then think, do and then think. Once again, it's more important for you not to encounter a resistance. And if you learn better by doing a little bit first and then stopping and thinking, do that. If you learn a little better by thinking and then doing, do that. But eventually, develop both faculties. Learning by doing and learning by thinking. And please go ahead and do. Do what you were thinking. And see if it's possible to bring that left foot of yours closer to your right hand. And then add something extra. As the left foot come closer to the hand, see if it's possible to reach with your right arm to take hold of your right heel, of your left heel. Yeah, I can hear the breathing changing now. I can hear this. It's audible. Don't struggle, please don't struggle. It's not worth it. It really isn't. But you know, who am I to say that it's not worth it? You're the one who has that value in you, not me. Have that intention that as you start to curl yourself more, that the right hand could reach down to meet that left foot, that left heel that's coming upwards towards it. Yeah, look, tickle the heel, tickle, tickle, tickle. Yeah. Oh, look, some of you can lift that foot off the ground. That's cool. You'll begin to invent your own lesson in a moment. That's good. That's how new lessons are born, by the way, by accident. Oh, I didn't know that could happen. And you go off into this new track. Now, if you can hold the heel, hold the heel. If you can't hold the heel, imagine long, long fingers holding the heel, like you have virtual fingers holding the heel. Now, hold the heel and move the foot downwards and return it upwards. So downwards means in the direction it came from, and upwards means in the direction it just was. Not forwards, upwards. That's forwards. Upwards. This way. Yeah, hold, 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 hold. This way and that way. This, yeah. So the foot doesn't go forwards of you. It goes upwards, towards the face and away from the face. Towards the face and then towards the other foot. And this is kind of similar to holding the straw between your nose and your knee, just a little bit more complicated. Great. Please let that be. Rest. Before we switch to the other side, please roll onto your front again. Have your left arm, your left hand, into a push-ups position where you know you could bring that left elbow to the floor. Refined that position. And as simply as you can, and that is an invitation, as simply as you can, bring your knee in the direction of your nose and your nose in the direction of your knee, taking your head through the gap. And feel what that's like to do now. Notice the curving, the bending of your spine. Notice how the chest moves towards the pelvis at the front. Notice how the neck bends. Notice how the right leg rolls. Yes, your right leg rolls. Can you feel that? Notice how the pelvis rolls. Notice how the left knee and the left hip joint and the left ankle tend to bend. Notice how the knee comes close to the nose. The nose. And then finally, which of those two parts of yourself travels the bigger distance? The knee or the nose? In other words, which of the two is the friendliest? You know, very often in a friendship, sometimes one person is a little bit more friendly than the other, and they keep on going to that person's house all the time. The other person hardly ever goes to the other friend's house. So the same thing can happen with the legs and the head. Some of you, you're moving your knees a long, long distance, and the head's going, okay, come over to my place. And some of you are moving your head a lot, and the knee is going, yeah, okay, come over to my place. Could they meet somewhere in the middle? Could you compose your movement in such a way that both knee and head move the same amount proportionally? It doesn't matter whether they touch or not. Your left arm can be, your right arm can be on the floor behind you. That's fine. Don't have to do anything special with that right arm. Okay, stop. Switch sides. Turn your face now to the right. Have your legs long. Have your right arm in a push-ups position. And already you know something from the other side, that the position that you're organizing with that right arm needs to afford you lowering the elbow to the floor. So you're no longer naive. You know something more than you knew before. And now, start to imagine doing what you just did a moment ago on this side, with the fullness of what you already know. What your chest can do, what your spine can do, what your pelvis, your hip joint can do, your head, your neck. And if you would like to simulate that in your mind, simulate. If you'd like to make really tiny excursions, do that. But for a little while, before you do the complete movement, just have little tastings. A little taste, a little taste, a little nibble. And those little tastings are going to vividly bring back to mind experiences from the other side. And you'll go, oh yeah, there was that too. Something happened right in that lower part of my back where my pelvis joins onto my spine. That was really good. I really remember that. That helped. That's why the little nibbles are important, because they rekindle, they spark off memories of experiences from the other side. Sounds like another good title for a book. Memories of my memoirs from the other side. You can see I'll never be a published author. And now, in your own time, at your own pace, according to your own interest, go ahead and make the movement progressively bigger and bigger according to your wishes. And what you'll find is this is a slightly different side. Which means the little details about how you do this particular intention will need to be tweaked to make it specific for this side. Because funnily enough, our structure is asymmetrical. We have an asymmetrical structure. For whatever reason, the reason's unimportant, but we do. One side of your skeleton is a different shape to the other. One hip joint has a different set of possibilities than the other. If you look at the internal organs, there is no symmetry in the internal organs. You've got a huge liver on one side, an empty stomach on the other. It's like all over the place in there. So there is no structural symmetry. And if there is, only a few individuals in the world have it. But what we are all capable of doing is moving ourselves in a way that is functionally symmetrical. We can do on one side the same intent that we can do on the other side mostly. But you just need to compose it a little differently. It's a different composition, more or less the same, but different. So if you go looking for doing it exactly the same way as you did on the other side, you're in for a hard time, because that's not how we're built. So let go of the idea of being structurally symmetrical. Let go of the idea that it has to be the same on both sides. It does not. Let each side have its own uniqueness and just find a way to perform the intent according to the abilities of that side. Excellent. Stop and rest, please. That's enough. You see, that was an instance where I shouldn't have said rest. Because watching you as I was walking around the room, no one was really efforting. I didn't see much effort in the room. Everybody was doing things quiet at their own speed. Beautiful. There was a great sense of calmness in the room. So rest is the inappropriate word at that moment. Just need to pause. That's all. One more variation. And it's not a new one. It's now combining the two sides. So please, come onto your front again. And this time, put both arms into a push-ups position. Rest either your forehead or your chin on the floor. And now you decide which way, through which gap you'll take your head first. Now, feel it. Which way for you makes sense? Taking your head through the gap under the left arm or taking the head through the gap under the right arm? Feel for it. What do you need to do to feel, yep, that side I'll go first? And then start to do it. And then come back to the middle and then take your head through the other gap. And then come back to the middle and alternate. One gap, return, the other gap, return. And remember, one arm, one elbow can come to the floor. So as your head goes through the gap, which elbow can come to the floor? Over there. Oh, were you unplugging it? Oh, okay, good. And then involve the knees, involve the legs, if you haven't done so already. And those of you that don't want to hear a bad joke, close your ears. And, you know, if you were Mick Jagger, you'd be able to kiss your knee. Now we know who the Rolling Stones fans are. They laughed. Okay, never mind. Yeah? What would it be like to have that intention of tasting your knee? If you were the appropriate age, that is exactly what you'd be wanting to do. Oh, what is that? Because you wouldn't know that it's your knee yet, would you? You go, what is that? And the way babies explore the world is they shove everything in their mouth. Yum, 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 yum. Please go a little faster. Just a little bit faster. And you know, if you go faster, it's much easier to go faster if the movement gets smaller. If you insist on making the movement the same size, you're burning up calories at a rapid rate. And then I will have to tell you to rest. You get it? Yeah, all right. That's okay. It's your choice to burn up calories or not. But it does require a lot more power. Yeah, it requires a lot of power. It's possible to do, but it requires a lot of power. All right, that's enough. Stop, lie on your back. As you're lying on your back, contemplate, think about, mull over. How is what you just experienced, how would you relate what you just experienced to the movement that we did this morning of sitting upright, leaning on your hands, circling your head? How do you think that would relate? And in your thinking, see if you can tap into the experiences of what you just did, rather than think in words or concepts or whatever. Can you tap into, oh yeah, I felt I did that, and I felt I did that, and that happened, and then this happened. And I remember something like that. I remember feeling something like that when I was circling my head. That's a very different way of thinking than thinking in concepts or words. That's the kind of thinking that an infant does before there is language. And do you really believe that infants can't think before they can speak? Please come up to sitting, have the soles, your feet touching, lean on the floor behind you with your hands, and now make a few circles with your head and investigate. Is there something that you can feel you're more able to do now, having done that little lesson? Is there something about the relationship between the shoulder blades and the chest, the movement of the spine and the waist and the hip joints and the pelvis? And that's enough. Let that be. And have a little break. I won't ask you to stand up. I won't ask you to walk around. I'll do something non-habitual. But just have a little break.